Hello, everyone. Have you ever stumbled across a piece of history so massive, so impossibly ambitious, that it makes you question everything you thought you knew about the ancient world? Tonight, we are stepping into one of those places of sight where the stones themselves feel like they are whispering a challenge across time. Welcome to Baalbek, Lebanon, home to some of the heaviest blocks ever carved by human hands. Or at least, by someone. At first glance, Baalbek looks like a normal archaeological site towering columns, classic Roman architecture, the kind of ruins you would expect from an empire famous for engineering. But the real story does not stand above the ground. It hides beneath it. Because underneath those temples is a foundation built from stones so huge that even today's most powerful machines would struggle to lift them. We are talking blocks weighing hundreds of tons, some of them reaching well over 1,000. One in the quarry has been measured at roughly 1,650 tons, making it one of the largest worked stones ever discovered. And here's the part that keeps historians awake at night. No one knows who carved them, how they were shaped, or how they were ever meant to be moved. There are no ancient records explaining the process. No inscriptions. No tools left behind. Just gigantic stones cut with surprising precision, positioned with a confidence that feels almost unreal. It is as if an unknown engineering tradition once existed, a tradition capable of achievements that challenge the limits of what we believe ancient people could do. So tonight, as we peel back the layers of this mystery, let us begin where every great riddle starts, with the impossible stones themselves. When most people look at Baalbek, they see Rome, grand pillars, elegant capitals, and the architectural confidence of an empire that spread across continents. And for a long time, that was the story. Everyone accepted that the Romans arrived, designed a mighty temple, and crowned the landscape with their engineering brilliance. But look a little closer, and something strange appears. The Roman structures, impressive as they are, sit on a platform that looks nothing like Roman work. The stones below are massive, smooth, and impossibly well-fitted, so precise that even a blade can't slip between them. And here's the twist. These gigantic blocks were already ancient by the time the Romans arrived. Archaeologists have dated the Roman temples to the 1st century AD. But the foundation beneath them, it tells a completely different story. The size, style, and technique of the lower platform do not match Roman methods at all. In fact, nothing in known Roman construction comes close to the sheer scale of these stones. This means one thing. The Romans did not build Baalbek's megalithic base. They inherited it. They simply built on top of something older, something so old that no written record, no inscription, and no cultural memory has survived to explain it. For the Romans, this may have been a sacred site or a strategic location. But before them, it belonged to a civilization we still can't identify. And this realization completely reshapes the timeline. Instead of starting with Rome, we are suddenly staring at a chapter of history that predates recorded tradition, a chapter built from stones so massive and mysterious that they seem almost out of place in the ancient world. One of the most unsettling parts of the Baalbek mystery is not just the size of the stones, it is the silence surrounding them. Normally, ancient builders loved to leave evidence. They carved inscriptions, recorded triumphs, left behind tools, or at least some trace of their methods. But at Baalbek, the deeper you look, the quieter everything becomes. There are no ancient texts describing who carved the massive stones. There are no engineering manuals or temple records. There are no carvings, symbols, or signatures anywhere on the foundation blocks. It is as if the builders did not just disappear, they erased themselves. Even more strange, there are no tool marks that match known Roman, Greek, or Phoenician techniques. The surfaces are too clean, the edges too sharp, and the cuts too consistent. Normally, you would expect chiseling scars, wedge marks, or the rough texture of hand-worked stone. Instead, these blocks look almost machine-treated, something far beyond what the ancient world is believed to have had. And then there is the transportation problem. The nearby quarry still holds unfinished giants, some over 1,000 tons, clearly shaped and prepared. But the site offers no sign of roads, ramps, wooden tracks, or infrastructure strong enough to move such weights. Nothing fits the expected pattern of ancient construction. It is like walking into a room where something huge happened, but every piece of evidence has been wiped clean. This absence raises a bigger question. Were these stones carved by a culture whose methods were so unfamiliar that we simply do not recognize their traces? Or did time erase an entire chapter of human innovation, one that does not match our current timeline? Whatever the answer, Baalbek forces us to confront a possibility few are comfortable admitting. Something is missing in the story of our past. Long before modern archaeologists puzzled over Baalbek, long before engineers argued about the physics, the ancient world already sensed that something about this place did not belong to their era. And when a civilization encounters something so vast, so beyond its own abilities, it does what humans have always done. It creates stories to explain the impossible. In Greek and Roman writings, Baalbek was not described as a human achievement. It was said to be built by giants, being strong enough to lift stones that no army could move. Arab traditions later added their own mythology, claiming Baalbek existed before the Great Flood, a relic from a forgotten world that vanished long before recorded history. Local Lebanese folklore deepened the mystery further. They connected the site to Baal, the ancient Canaanite sun god, suggesting Baalbek was a place of immense celestial importance, a site where divine energy touched the earth. Even biblical references to the region echo this theme, a landscape tied to rituals, sky worship, and the movements of the heavens. The most surprising part is not the legends themselves, but what they reveal. Even the civilizations closest to Baalbek had no idea who built its foundation. They understood the Roman temple. They remembered local rulers. But the gigantic stone platform beneath it, that belonged to a story so old that memory itself had faded. When the people of the ancient world looked at Baalbek, they did not see the work of their ancestors. They saw something inherited, something mysterious, something that felt like it came from a time before time, and their myths were attempts to make sense of a structure that already felt ancient in their own age. If Baalbek has a heart, it beats inside the trilithon, a row of 3 gigantic stones so massive and so precisely placed that they have become the center of every argument about ancient engineering. These are not ordinary construction blocks. Each one is roughly the size of a small house and weighs as much as a fully loaded commercial airplane. Yet they sit side by side, aligned to within millimeters, forming a platform that has not shifted for more than 2,000 years. Standing before the trilithon, you can almost feel its weight pressing through time. The seams between the stones are so tight that you cannot slide a knife blade between them. There is no mortar, no filler, no patchwork, just pure precision. This kind of accuracy is rare even in modern construction, where computer-guided machinery and hydraulic equipment control every movement. So how did ancient builders achieve it? Even the Romans, masters of architecture and engineering, never attempted anything close to this scale. Across their empire, they moved heavy stone, but nothing approaching 800 tons. Their largest projects relied on manageable block sizes, the kind that teams of workers and cranes could realistically handle. The trilithon sits entirely outside that tradition. What makes the mystery even deeper is the placement. These stones were not simply dragged into position. They were lifted, leveled, and locked into a perfect row. Any misalignment would have caused long-term instability, yet the platform has remained intact through earthquakes, invasions, and centuries of environmental change. It is the kind of achievement that forces you to pause and reconsider what ancient builders were capable of, or whether they used techniques and knowledge we no longer understand. The trilithon is not just a marvel of stonework. It is a silent statement of power, precision, and purpose. If the trilithon challenges our understanding of ancient construction, the quarry takes that challenge and pushes it to the breaking point. Just a short distance from Baalbek lies a massive open pit where the largest stones of all were carved stones so big that they make the already unbelievable trilithon look almost ordinary. The most famous of them, the Stone of the South, weighs over 1,000 tons. For centuries, it was considered the largest worked stone in human history. Then, in 2014, archaeologists discovered an even bigger one directly beneath it, a stone weighing an estimated 1,650 tons. To put that into perspective, that is roughly the weight of 4 adult blue whales, carved from solid limestone and shaped with remarkable precision. But the real shock is not their size. It is the fact that these stones were meant to be moved. Their surfaces show smoothing, leveling, and preparation for transport. These were not abandoned halfway through. They were part of a plan. And that plan involved dragging them from the quarry to Baalbek, not downhill, but uphill across a 5 degrees incline. For modern machinery, that incline is a logistical nightmare. For ancient rope, wood, and manpower, it borders on the impossible. Engineers today struggle to design equipment capable of handling such weights safely. Yet someone thousands of years ago intended to move them with precision and purpose. The question becomes unavoidable. What kind of engineering tradition was this? Who was confident enough to attempt moving stones that push the limits of physics? And why did they stop? Whatever the reason, the quarry stones show one thing clearly: ancient builders were aiming for feats far beyond anything we typically associate with early civilizations. When historians try to explain Baalbek, they often fall back on familiar ideas: wooden rollers, massive teams of workers, ropes, levers, and lots of determination. It is a comforting picture, one that makes the ancient world feel understandable. But when engineers actually test these theories, the results collapse quickly. Small-scale experiments have shown that with enough people and ideal conditions, you can drag a stone weighing 50 to 100 tons for a short distance. But Baalbek stones are not 100 tons. Some are 800, 1,000, even 1,650 tons. Once you reach those numbers, the physics breaks down. Ropes that could theoretically hold that much weight snap under real tension. Wooden rollers crush instantly. Friction becomes overwhelming. The energy required becomes impossible for human labor alone. And that is before you add the uphill slope from the quarry to the temple platform. Modern heavy lift cranes, including some of the strongest on Earth, top out around 600 to 700 tons under perfect conditions. Even NASA's crawler transporter, designed to move rockets, would struggle with the mass of Baalbek's largest stones. Yet the builders of Baalbek did not just move these stones, they placed them precisely, aligning them within millimeters. With today's technology, that kind of accuracy would require hydraulic systems, laser leveling, and a team of specialists guiding every movement. But according to the official timeline, ancient engineers accomplished this using nothing more than basic tools and human strength. The gap between the theory and the physical reality is enormous, and that gap is where the mystery of Baalbek truly begins to grow. If our modern machines strain to match this feat, then what exactly was powering the world of ancient builders? If Baalbek's stones astonish engineers, its layout captivates astronomers. Because the deeper researchers look, the more it becomes clear that the placement of each structure was not random. It followed a blueprint rooted in the sky itself. The entire platform is aligned almost perfectly to the cardinal directions. That level of orientation requires careful observation of the sun's path, seasonal shadows, and the horizon, something far beyond simple guesswork. Its corners appear to match the sun's position during solstices, indicating that Baalbek may have been designed to track solar cycles or mark sacred astronomical events. Mathematically, the site fits into a pattern seen across some of the world's most famous ancient structures. The same 3:4:5 geometric ratio used in Baalbek appears in the Great Pyramid of Giza and other megalithic sites. This ratio forms a perfect right triangle and was often used to encode stability, balance, and cosmic order. This raises an intriguing question. Were these similarities coincidence or signs of a shared global knowledge system? The Romans rarely built with this level of astronomical precision. Their temples followed architectural standards, but not celestial ones. That is what makes Baalbek stand out. The foundation seems to belong to a tradition that understood the movement of the heavens intimately. When you compare Baalbek to other ancient sites like Teotihuacan in Mexico, the pyramids in Egypt, or Stonehenge in England, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. Cultures separated by oceans and millennia created monuments with the same cosmic signature. It suggests that the builders of Baalbek were not just constructing a platform. They were embedding knowledge, aligning stone with sky, mathematics with meaning, and architecture with celestial rhythm. When Baalbek is viewed in isolation, it looks like an extraordinary anomaly, a place where the engineering seems too advanced, too ambitious, too precise for its time. But when you start comparing it to other ancient sites around the world, something unexpected happens. Baalbek stops looking like an exception and starts looking like part of a pattern. In Peru, the walls of Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo fit multi-ton stones together so tightly that paper cannot slide between them. In Egypt, the pyramids are aligned to true north with a precision unmatched for thousands of years. In Turkey's Göbekli Tepe, perfectly carved pillars appear more than 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. Across the Mediterranean, across the Americas, across Asia, the same traits repeat. Massive stones, perfect joints, astronomical precision, earthquake-resistant foundations, unknown construction techniques, and perhaps most interesting, many of these sites align with each other geographically in ways that imply a deeper understanding of Earth's shape long before modern science confirmed it. For mainstream history, the simplest explanation is coincidence that ancient cultures independently developed similar skills and ideas over thousands of years. But the level of consistency challenges that idea. These monuments do not just look similar. They express the same engineering logic, the same mathematical patterns, and the same obsession with the sky. This has led some researchers to propose a more dramatic idea, that these sites may be cultural echoes of a much older civilization, one that shared knowledge across continents, or left behind principles that later societies rediscovered in fragments. Whether that civilization was global, regional, or entirely lost remains unknown. But the fingerprints it left behind, including Baalbek's impossible stones, suggest a story far larger than any one site. Just when you think Baalbek cannot get stranger, modern technology uncovers something even more surprising. Beneath the massive platform under the trilithon, below the Roman temples, deeper than any excavated layer, seismic imaging has detected voids, buried chambers, and structural levels that no one has fully explored. And here's the astonishing part: these lower sections appear even older than the giant stones above them. Ground-penetrating radar suggests stacked phases of construction, as if Baalbek was not built in one era, but evolved over multiple unknown periods, each layer belonging to a different chapter of humanity, chapters missing from our historical timeline. Archaeologists who've studied the quarry stones believe they were meant to be placed on the site, indicating a massive construction plan that was never finished. Why would a civilization capable of shaping 1,600-ton blocks suddenly abandon their work? War, disaster, collapse, or something else entirely? Even more intriguing are the tool marks found on the buried stones. They are finer, sharper, and more uniform than what is typically associated with ancient techniques. These are not random rough cuts. They reflect an advanced method we still can't identify. All of this points toward a stunning possibility. Baalbek was not just a temple platform. It was a monument designed to endure beyond empires, beyond disasters, beyond memory itself. Its stones may encode geometry, astronomy, and knowledge too important to lose. The Romans did not start this story. They only inherited the final chapter. Beneath their ruins lies a deeper narrative, one written long before. Recorded history by builders whose names were lost, but whose work refuses to fade. Baalbek stands as a reminder that the past may be far older, far more advanced, and far more mysterious than we have ever imagined. As we reach the end of this journey into Baalbek, one thing becomes crystal clear. This site is not just a collection of ancient stones, it is a challenge left behind by the past. A quiet question carved into the landscape. Every block, every alignment, every hidden chamber invites us to reconsider what early civilizations knew, how they built, and how much of their story has faded beyond the edges of written history. The Romans may have crowned the hill with their temples, but they were standing on the shoulders of a legacy far older than their empire. Beneath their architecture lies a foundation shaped with precision and ambition that still stretches the limits of our understanding. It hints at knowledge that has slipped through time, techniques that vanished, and a culture confident enough to attempt the impossible. Whether Baalbek was once an observatory, a ceremonial center, a knowledge archive, or a monument meant to endure through ages of change, its message remains the same. There was once a chapter of human history far deeper and far more extraordinary than the versions we tell today. And maybe that is the real gift of Baalbek, not a final answer, but an invitation. A reminder that the world is full of mysteries waiting to be looked at with fresh eyes and an open mind. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. If today's story sparked your curiosity, inspired a question, or opened a new doorway in your imagination, let me know in the comments. I always love hearing your theories and insights. Until the next chapter of mystery and wonder. Stay curious, stay open, and I will see you in the next story.